The night she hired him, she thought she was choosing a quiet stranger to guard her life. A man with worn boots, simple clothes, and eyes that never spoke more than necessary. She didn't know those same eyes had once commanded armies. She didn't know kings bowed to him. She didn't know the enemies hunting her were already afraid of him. And she definitely didn't know that the common bodyguard she trusted with her safety was secretly the most powerful king in the northern kingdoms. And by the time she discovered the truth, it was already too late to stop herself from falling in love with him. The girl who couldn't trust anyone. The rain began before sunset. Not gentle rain. Not the kind that washed streets clean and left the world peaceful afterward. This rain arrived like a warning. Cold. Sharp. Persistent. It drummed against the rooftops of Valorith City as if the sky itself were trying to send a message no one wanted to hear. Inside the Eastern District, far from the golden towers of nobles and ministers, stood a quiet townhouse hidden between narrow alleys and lantern-lit balconies. That was where Elira lived. Alone. Not because she wanted to be, but because she had learned that trusting people often came with consequences she couldn't afford anymore. Once, her house had been filled with voices. Her father's deep laughter. Her mother's gentle songs. Servants moving through hallways carrying warm bread and fresh linen. Now, the hallways echoed. The doors stayed locked. And silence had become her closest companion. Elira stood beside her window, watching rain gather on the glass. Her fingers tightened slightly around the letter she held. It had arrived that morning. No seal. No signature. Just a message written in ink that looked like it had been pressed too hard into the paper. You are not as hidden as you think. She had read it 6 times already. Each time hoping she misunderstood. Each time realizing she hadn't. Someone knew where she was. Someone knew she was alone. Someone was watching. And that meant one thing. She needed protection. But protection was dangerous too. Because guards talked. Guards asked questions. Guards reported to nobles. And nobles reported to people she never wanted finding her again. Still, she didn't have a choice anymore. So she wrapped her cloak around her shoulders and stepped into the rain. The guard recruitment hall smelled like wet leather and steel. Men filled the long wooden benches lining the walls. Some laughed loudly. Some drank from flasks. Some sharpened blades while pretending not to watch her enter. Elira almost turned back immediately. Hiring one of them meant letting someone into her life again. Letting someone close enough to notice things she worked very hard to hide. But then she remembered the letter. And she kept walking forward. The commander behind the desk looked up. His expression shifted the moment he saw her. Not because she looked powerful. Not because she looked rich. Because she looked careful. And careful people usually carried secrets. You're hiring? He asked. Yes. For escort work or house protection? Personal protection. That changed everything. The room grew quieter. Not silent. But attentive. Because personal protection meant danger. Real danger. And danger meant higher pay. I have men available, the commander said. He gestured toward the benches. Choose. Elira turned slowly. She studied each face. Too loud. Too confident. Too curious. Too dangerous. Too interested. Too eager. Then she noticed him. He wasn't sitting with the others. He stood near the back wall beside a narrow window where rain slipped quietly down the glass behind him. He wore dark traveling clothes. No armor. No decoration. No weapons visible except one sword strapped simply at his side. He wasn't watching her. He wasn't trying to impress her. He wasn't even pretending to be interested. He looked like someone waiting for nothing at all. And somehow, that made him the safest person in the room. She stepped closer. "You," she said quietly. He looked at her. Just once. Calm. Still. Observing. "Yes." His voice surprised her. It wasn't rough like most guards. It wasn't loud. It wasn't demanding. It was steady. Controlled. Careful. "I need protection," she said. "For how long?" he asked. "As long as I'm in the city." That could mean weeks. Yes. He studied her face carefully. Not like a man measuring payment. Like someone measuring truth. "What kind of danger?" he asked. "I don't know yet." That answer should have made him refuse immediately. Instead, he nodded once. "My name is Rowan," he said. "Elira." His eyes paused slightly when she spoke her name. Just slightly. As if he recognized it. But he didn't ask questions. And that confirmed she had chosen correctly. "I accept," he said. What Elira didn't know was that Rowan had been watching her long before she walked into the hall. He had followed her for 3 days already. Not because he was hired. Not because he was curious. Because he had been searching for her. Because her name had appeared in a report delivered to him weeks earlier. Because the enemies hunting her were the same enemies hunting him. And because Rowan was not a common bodyguard. He was King Alric of the Northern Crown. And the moment she chose him, he silently promised something no king should promise a stranger. No one would touch her. Not while he still breathed. That night, he followed her home. Not inside. Never inside without permission. He stood beneath the lantern outside her gate while rain soaked his shoulders. Watching shadows move across rooftops. Watching windows across the street. Watching the alley behind her garden wall. Waiting. Protecting. Planning. Because whoever sent that letter was already closer than she realized. And somewhere in the darkness beyond the street lamps, someone else was watching them both. The bodyguard who fought like a king. The rain didn't stop that night. It only grew heavier. Elira barely slept. Not because she was afraid of the storm. But because something inside her kept whispering the same warning over and over again. Someone is coming. She sat upright in her bed long before dawn, listening. The townhouse was quiet. Too quiet. No footsteps in the hallway. No movement in the courtyard. No sound except rain striking the roof like restless fingers. Still. Her instincts refused to calm. She rose slowly and wrapped her shawl around her shoulders. Careful steps carried her toward the corridor outside her room. The candle she held flickered once. Then again. Then. It went out. Not naturally. Not gently. It died like something had swallowed its light. Elira froze. Someone was inside the house. Outside the townhouse gate, Rowan had already drawn his sword. He hadn't moved for hours. Not once. Not even when the rain soaked through his coat and chilled his skin. Because kings learned patience long before they learned power. And tonight, his instincts had been louder than the storm. 3 men approached through the shadows. Not drunk thieves. Not wandering mercenaries. Assassins. Their steps were silent. Their movements precise. Their formation careful. They believed they were unseen. They believed they were unnoticed. They were wrong. Rowan stepped forward into the lantern light. The assassins stopped immediately. Their leader studied him carefully. "A guard?" he asked quietly. "Yes," Rowan replied. "Step aside." "No." The leader sighed. "We are not here for you." "I know," Rowan said. "Then move." "No." The leader's eyes narrowed. "You don't understand what you're protecting." Rowan's voice remained calm. "I understand perfectly." The assassins moved together. Fast. Professional. Deadly. 3 blades struck at once. 3 angles. 3 killing strikes meant to end the fight before it began. Rowan moved once. Only once. And suddenly, one assassin collapsed. The second staggered backward. The third dropped his weapon completely. Because the man standing before them wasn't fighting like a guard. He was fighting like someone trained in royal war courts. Precise. Controlled. Impossible to predict. Terrifying to face. Steel flashed once more. Then silence returned to the street. Rowan wiped rainwater from his blade. Not blood. Rainwater. Because kings never needed many strikes. Inside the townhouse, Elira heard everything. The clash of steel. The thud of boots. The sharp breath of men fighting for their lives. She ran toward the front door before she could stop herself. Before she could think. Before fear could return. When she opened the door, Rowan stood there. Alive. Calm. Unharmed. Rain dripping slowly from his hair. 3 unconscious bodies lay across the street behind him. Elira stared. "You fought them alone." "Yes." "There were 3. "Yes." "They were assassins." "Yes." "You're not injured." "No." Her voice softened slightly. "You didn't even look worried." Rowan hesitated. Just for a moment. Then he answered honestly. "I wasn't." Elira studied him carefully. Something about the way he stood felt different now. Not like a hired guard. Not like a soldier. Like someone used to danger. Used to command. Used to winning. "Who are you?" she asked quietly. "A bodyguard," he replied. But even he knew she didn't believe that anymore. Later that morning, Rowan inspected the house carefully. Every window. Every hallway. Every rooftop angle. Every escape route. Elira watched him silently. "You've done this before," she said. "Yes." "For nobles." "Yes." "For royalty." Rowan paused. Then answered carefully. "Sometimes." She crossed her arms. "You move like someone trained in palace defense." He looked at her. And for the first time, he almost smiled. "You notice more than most people." "I had to learn," she replied. "Why?" Elira didn't answer. Instead, she changed the subject. "Why did you accept this job?" Rowan didn't hesitate. "Because you needed protection." "That's not enough." "It is for me." She studied him again. "Longer this time." "You didn't even ask what I'm hiding." "That isn't my responsibility." "And if what I'm hiding puts you in danger?" "It already has." Elira blinked. "You're not afraid?" "No." "Why?" Rowan met her eyes. "Because kings didn't lie when truth mattered. Because some people are worth protecting." The silence that followed felt heavier than the storm outside. That afternoon, a royal messenger entered the Eastern District. He carried a sealed document marked with the crest of the Northern Crown. He stopped when he saw Rowan standing outside the townhouse gate. Their eyes met. Recognition flashed instantly. The messenger dropped to one knee before he could stop himself. My. Rowan stepped forward quickly. Fast enough to interrupt. Wrong person, he said quietly. The messenger froze. Then understood. He stood again immediately. My mistake. Elira stepped outside just in time to see the exchange. What was that? She asked. A misunderstanding, Rowan replied calmly. But she wasn't convinced anymore. Not after last night. Not after the fight. Not after the messenger. Not after the way people looked at him when they thought she wasn't watching. Something about Rowan didn't match his story. Something important. Something dangerous. Something royal. And for the first time since hiring him, Elira wondered if the man protecting her was hiding more secrets than she was. That night, Rowan didn't sleep. Not because assassins might return. Not because danger still surrounded them. But because Elira laughed for the first time. Softly. Unexpectedly. While telling him a story about her childhood garden. And kings rarely allowed themselves simple moments like that. Yet somehow, he didn't want the moment to end. Which was dangerous. Because kings could protect strangers. Kings could defend kingdoms. Kings could defeat enemies. But kings were never supposed to fall in love with the women they were hiding from the world. The kingdom that was secretly searching for him. The second assassination attempt came before sunrise. Not with blades. Not with shadows. But with fire. Elira woke to the smell first. Smoke. Thick. Sharp. Wrong. Her eyes opened instantly. The room was already filling with gray haze. For one terrifying second, she didn't understand what she was seeing. Then she heard Rowan's voice. Elira. He was already inside her room. Already awake. Already moving. The house is burning, he said calmly. We leave now. She didn't ask how he knew. She didn't ask why he was inside before she even woke. She trusted him. And that trust saved her life. Outside. The eastern district glowed orange. Not one house burning. 3. Flames climbed rooftops like hungry creatures. Smoke swallowed entire streets. Neighbors ran with buckets. Children cried. Men shouted orders no one followed. Chaos spread faster than fire. This wasn't an accident, Elira whispered. No, Rowan replied. They're forcing us out. Yes. His voice remained steady. Too steady. Like someone who had already expected this. Like someone who had already planned what came next. We can't stay in the city anymore, he said. And where do we go? Rowan hesitated. Only slightly. To the northern road. Elira stared at him. That leads toward the royal territories. Yes. Why there? Because no one will expect us to go closer to power. That answer made sense. Too much sense. So she nodded. Then we go north. They left before the fire reached the courtyard wall. No luggage. No servants. No witnesses. Just a single horse Rowan had already prepared before she even stepped outside. You planned this, she said quietly. I prepared for it, he corrected. How long have you been expecting an attack like this? Since the night I accepted the job. Elira blinked. You knew it would escalate? Yes. And you stayed anyway? Yes. She studied him carefully. You're not just protecting me, she said slowly. You're anticipating something. Rowan didn't answer. Because she was right. And kings learned long ago when silence protected more than truth. The northern road stretched through forest land that few travelers used after sunset. Tall pine trees swallowed the sky. Mist lingered low between roots and stones. The world felt quieter here. Older. Safer. But only on the surface. Rowan's eyes never stopped moving. Every branch. Every shadow. Every distant sound. Kings survived by noticing what others ignored. And someone was following them. He felt it before he saw it. Before he heard it. Before the wind shifted. Elira, he said quietly. Yes. Stay close. Her heartbeat quickened instantly. Someone's behind us. Yes. How many? 5. She turned slightly. You can tell that from footsteps. No. Then how do you know? Rowan's voice remained calm. Because they're trained. They reached a clearing before the riders appeared. 5 horses. 5 cloaked figures. 5 soldiers wearing the crest of the northern crown. Elira exhaled slowly. They're royal guards. Yes, Rowan replied. Then we're safe. No. The riders stopped several steps away. Their captain stepped forward. His eyes locked onto Rowan immediately. Recognition flashed. Shock followed. Then disbelief. He dropped to one knee instantly. My king. Rowan moved forward quickly. Fast enough to silence him. You're mistaken, he said quietly. The captain froze. But. You're mistaken, Rowan repeated. This time. It sounded like an order. The captain stood immediately. Yes, sir. Elira stared between them. Her pulse quickened. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Royal guards did not kneel to bodyguards. Royal captains did not mistake strangers for kings. Royal soldiers did not look afraid of correcting themselves. What did he call you? She asked softly. Rowan didn't answer immediately. He made a mistake. No, she said. He didn't. The captain avoided her eyes. That confirmed everything. Her voice dropped. Who are you? Rowan looked at her. Really looked at her. And for the first time since meeting her. He didn't know what to say. Because kings could command armies. Kings could defeat enemies. Kings could silence courts. But kings could not easily explain why they lied to the one person they were beginning to care about. I'm someone who needs to keep you safe, he said finally. That's not an answer. It's the only one I can give right now. Her chest tightened. You promised honesty. I promised protection. That's not the same thing. No, he admitted. It isn't. The captain stepped closer again. My lord, he said carefully. We've been searching the northern forest for 3 days. I told the council not to send patrols. They insisted. Why? The captain hesitated. Elira Valen has been declared a protected royal witness. Silence fell instantly. Elira's breath stopped. You know my name, she whispered. The captain looked confused. Of course we do. How? Because the king ordered it. She turned slowly toward Rowan. The king? Yes. Her voice barely existed now. When? 3 days ago. 3 days ago. The same day Rowan accepted her job. The same day assassins arrived. The same day everything changed. Her heart began to race. You requested protection for me, she asked Rowan quietly. Yes. You spoke directly to the king. Yes. How? Rowan didn't answer. Because the truth was standing directly in front of her. Closer than she realized. Closer than she was ready to accept. That night, they camped beneath the northern stars. Elira didn't sleep. Not because she was afraid, but because questions filled her thoughts faster than answers. Royal guards searching forests. Captains kneeling. Messengers recognizing him. Protection orders issued before attacks even happened. And Rowan, standing watch beside the fire like a man guarding something far more important than a hired assignment. "You're hiding something," she said quietly. "Yes. Something important. Yes. Something royal." Rowan looked at the fire. "Yes." Her voice trembled slightly. "Why won't you tell me the truth?" Because if he told her the truth, everything would change. The trust. The closeness. The simplicity of being just Rowan. Instead of being King Alric again. "Because once you know," he said softly, "I won't be able to protect you the same way anymore." Elira stared at him. She didn't understand that answer. Not yet. But soon. She would. The truth she was never supposed to discover. Morning arrived too quietly. The forest should have been alive with birds. Wind. Movement. Life. Instead, it felt like the world itself was holding its breath. Elira opened her eyes slowly beside the dying campfire. Rowan was gone. At first, she thought he had stepped away to scout the perimeter. He often did that before sunrise. He never woke her when he left. He never explained how long he would be gone. And somehow, he always returned before she could begin worrying. But this time, something felt different. The silence wasn't calm. It was waiting. Then she heard it. Horses. Many horses. Not 5. Not 10. Dozens. Elira stood quickly. Her heartbeat rose instantly. Royal riders emerged from the mist like shadows becoming real. Silver armor. Dark blue cloaks. Northern crown banners moving slowly in the morning air. An entire royal escort. And at the center of them, Rowan. No. Not Rowan. Not anymore. He wasn't dressed like a traveler. He wasn't standing like a guard. He wasn't watching quietly from the edges of danger. He stood at the center of command. Armored. Crowned. Unmistakably royal. Unmistakably powerful. Unmistakably a king. Elira couldn't move. Her breath caught somewhere between disbelief and understanding. Rowan stepped down from his horse slowly. Not as a guard approaching an employer. As a ruler approaching someone important. "Elira," he said gently. Her voice barely existed. "You lied to me." "Yes." "You let me believe you were a bodyguard." "Yes." "You let me trust you." "Yes." The honesty stunned her more than the truth. "Why?" she whispered. "Because kings did not lie easily. And when they did, it was never simple." "I needed to protect you," he said quietly. "You could have done that as a king." "No." "Why not?" "Because kings attract enemies." She laughed once. Softly. Painfully. "You attracted them anyway." "Yes. But at least they weren't hunting you because of me." The words hit harder than he expected. Because they were true. Because she mattered more than he had planned. More than he should have allowed. More than any king could afford. "You watched me struggle," she said slowly. "You watched me worry." "Yes." "You watched me trust you." "Yes." "And you said nothing." Rowan stepped closer. "Would you have trusted me if I told you the truth the first night?" She didn't answer. Because she knew she wouldn't have. Kings didn't stand in recruitment halls. Kings didn't guard strangers outside their gates in the rain. Kings didn't sleep beside campfires protecting women with no titles left to their names. Kings didn't do what Rowan had done. Unless they cared. You issued a royal protection order for me, she said quietly. Yes. You sent guards to search forests. Yes. You fought assassins yourself. Yes. Why? Rowan hesitated. Not because he didn't know the answer. Because the answer changed everything. Because you were in danger. That's not the whole truth. No, he admitted. It isn't. Silence filled the space between them again. Then. He said it. Because I didn't want anything to happen to you. Elira's chest tightened. That still isn't the whole truth. Rowan took one more step forward. Close enough that she could see the conflict behind his calm expression. Because somewhere between protecting you, I stopped seeing you as a responsibility. Her breath slowed. And started seeing me as what? His voice softened. As someone I didn't want to lose. The royal escort stood silently behind him. No one spoke. No one moved. No one interrupted. Because everyone there understood what their king was risking. Kings did not speak like that publicly. Kings did not confess feelings like that openly. Kings did not choose unknown women over political alliances. Yet Rowan stood there. Doing exactly that. Elira, he said gently. I never meant for you to discover the truth this way. How were you planning to tell me? I wasn't. She blinked. You were going to leave. Yes. The word struck harder than any confession. You were just going to disappear. Yes. Why? Because the closer you stayed to me, the more dangerous your life became. Elira looked past him at the royal escort. At the banners. At the armor. At the crown resting lightly against his dark hair. You're not just a king, she whispered. You're the Northern King. Yes. The most powerful ruler in 3 territories. Yes. The man half the court wants to control. Yes. The man the other half wants to replace. Yes. And you chose to stand outside my house in the rain. Yes. The simplicity of his answer broke something inside her. Because kings did not choose like that. Not without reason. Not without sacrifice. Not without love. You should go back, she said softly. Rowan froze. What? You're a king. Yes. You belong with them. His voice lowered. I belong where I choose. No, she said gently. You belong where your kingdom needs you. And what about what I need? Her heart stopped. Because kings did not ask questions like that. Not unless the answer mattered more than politics. More than duty. More than crowns. What do you need? She whispered. Rowan looked at her the same way he had the first day she chose him in the recruitment hall. Carefully. Quietly. Honestly. You, he said. Everything changed in that moment. Not because he was a king. Not because she was protected. Not because the truth had finally arrived. But because now. She understood why he stayed. And why leaving would hurt more than danger ever could. The secret that made her a target. The attack came before anyone expected it. Not at night. Not from shadows. Not from hidden assassins slipping quietly between trees. It came in daylight. Loud. Open. Unmistakable. War horns echoed across the northern ridge. Every royal soldier froze instantly. Rowan turned toward the sound before the second horn finished echoing. His voice changed. Not Rowan anymore. Not the quiet bodyguard who stood outside her gate in the rain. This voice belonged to a king. Defensive formation, he ordered. Armor shifted. Horses moved. Steel lifted. Royal soldiers surrounded Elira within seconds. She barely had time to breathe before arrows struck the ground around them. One landed inches from her boot. Another struck a soldier's shield. A third buried itself deep into a tree trunk beside Rowan. This wasn't supposed to happen here, one captain muttered. Rowan's eyes narrowed. Yes, he said quietly. It was. Riders appeared along the ridge. Not assassins this time. Not hired killers. An army. Black banners. Silver wolf crests. Eastern crown soldiers. Elira's breath caught. That's not your army, she whispered. No, Rowan replied. That's the army that killed my father. The words stunned her. They've been hunting you. No. He looked at her. They've been hunting you. The truth hit her like falling stone. Me? Yes. I'm not important enough for armies. You are, Rowan said. You just didn't know why. The Eastern riders moved closer. Their commander raised a hand. The army stopped instantly. He removed his helmet slowly. Elira recognized him. Not from memory. From stories. From warnings. From whispers spoken in fear. Lord Varen. The man who replaced her father's position after his death. The man who claimed her family estate. The man who declared her inheritance invalid. You should have stayed hidden, Varen called across the clearing. Elira's voice trembled. You burned my house. Yes. You sent assassins. Yes. You followed us into the forest. Yes. Rowan stepped forward slightly. You're declaring war against the Northern Crown. Varen laughed. No. He looked directly at Elira. I'm reclaiming stolen property. Elira's heart stopped. What property? Varen smiled slowly. You. Rowan's sword left its sheath before anyone else moved. No, he said quietly. But kings did not speak like that unless they meant something else. Elira stepped closer to him. What does he mean? She whispered. Rowan didn't answer immediately. Because some truths changed everything once spoken. Elira, he said carefully. Your father wasn't just a noble. I know that. He wasn't just a landholder. I know that too. He was keeper of the Eastern Seal. Her breath stopped completely. That's impossible. No. That title was lost during the border war. No. It vanished with the royal archives. No. It was destroyed. No. Rowan's voice softened. It was hidden. The clearing fell silent again. Even the soldiers seemed to understand what that meant. The Eastern Seal wasn't just a title. It wasn't land. It wasn't wealth. It was authority. The authority to confirm royal succession. The authority to approve treaties. The authority to decide who ruled the Eastern territories. And whoever controlled it. Controlled half the future of the kingdom. My father never told me, she whispered. He couldn't, Rowan replied. Why not? Because the moment anyone knew you carried the seal's bloodline, they would try to control me. Yes. Or kill me. Yes. Lord Varen's smile widened. You see now, he called. You were never a runaway noble daughter. You were always a crown key. Elira's hands trembled. And you want me because... Because the Eastern Crown requires legitimacy, Varen interrupted. And you provide it. Rowan stepped forward again. She belongs to no one. Varen laughed. She belongs to history. Then his voice hardened. And if I cannot take her alive? His soldiers raised their bows again. I will take the seal another way. The first arrow flew. Rowan moved before it reached her. Steel flashed once. The arrow split in midair. Ride, he ordered. No, Elira said. Elira. No. This isn't a negotiation. I'm not leaving you. His voice dropped. You're not leaving me. I'm not running anymore. The soldiers behind them formed tighter ranks. The Eastern army advanced. War was seconds away. Elira, Rowan said quietly. I need you to trust me. I do. Then stay behind me. The battle began like thunder breaking the sky. Steel crashed. Horses surged forward. Arrows filled the air. Royal guards clashed with Eastern soldiers in the narrow forest clearing. Rowan moved like something older than kingship. Faster than soldiers expected. Stronger than commanders predicted. More dangerous than any enemy understood. Because he wasn't fighting for territory. He wasn't fighting for strategy. He wasn't fighting for politics. He was fighting for her. Elira watched him move through battle like a storm given human form. Not reckless. Not wild. Precise. Protective. Unstoppable. And suddenly, she understood something she hadn't realized before. He hadn't followed her from the recruitment hall because it was his duty. He hadn't stayed because she needed protection. He hadn't revealed himself because circumstances forced him. He stayed because he chose her. Long before she knew why she mattered. Long before she knew who he was. Long before she understood what her future meant. When the last Eastern soldier retreated, silence returned slowly. Broken armor lay across the clearing. Smoke drifted between trees. Horses stood trembling beside fallen shields. Rowan turned toward her immediately. Elira. I'm here. You're safe. Yes. Only then did he breathe again. And only then did she understand something else. Kings protected kingdoms. But Rowan protected her. First. Always. Lord Varen retreated, but not defeated. As his surviving riders disappeared into the trees, his voice carried across the clearing one final time. This isn't over, Your Majesty. Rowan's expression hardened. No, he said quietly. It isn't. Because now, the war wasn't hidden anymore. It had a name. A reason. And a queen the enemy intended to claim. The king who chose love over power. They reached the northern capital 3 days later. Elira had never seen a city like it before. Not because it was larger than Valorith. Not because its towers were taller. Not because its gates were stronger. But because everything about it moved with purpose. The guards didn't simply stand watch. They watched like protectors of something sacred. The citizens didn't simply walk the streets. They walked like they trusted the crown above them. And when Rowan entered the city, everything changed. Trumpets sounded across the stone walls. Banners lifted along the towers. Crowds stopped moving. People bowed. Not politely. Not formally. But deeply. Because their king had returned. Elira rode beside him through the royal gate in silence. No one bowed to her. No one recognized her. Yet. Still. She felt every eye watching. Not with suspicion. Not with judgment. With curiosity. Because the king never returned from secret journeys with strangers beside him. And certainly never with a woman he refused to leave behind. Inside the palace courtyard. The council was already waiting. Ministers. Generals. Advisors. And one figure standing at the front of them all. Queen Regent Meryn. Rowan's aunt. The woman who ruled the kingdom while he led the northern campaigns. Her eyes moved past Rowan immediately. And stopped on Elira. You brought her, she said calmly. Yes, Rowan replied. That was not the agreement. I changed the agreement. Her voice sharpened slightly. Kings do not change agreements alone. This king does. The courtyard fell silent. No one challenged Rowan directly. But everyone understood what this meant. Something important had already shifted inside the palace. Meryn stepped closer. You risked a border conflict bringing her here. Yes. You risked the Eastern Alliance protecting her. Yes. You risked the Council's support refusing to surrender her. Yes. Her voice lowered. And what do you gain in return? Rowan didn't hesitate. Her safety. The Council exchanged uneasy glances. Because kings did not speak like that during political negotiations. And queens did not accept answers like that without consequences. You forget yourself, Meryn said quietly. No, Rowan replied. I remember exactly who I am. And who is that? Her voice carried across the courtyard like sharpened steel. The king. Elira stepped forward before she could stop herself. This isn't his decision alone. Every head turned toward her instantly. Meryn studied her carefully. You speak in royal court without permission. I speak because this concerns me. It concerns the kingdom. It concerns both. Silence followed. Because courage like that wasn't common. Especially from someone with no title in the northern court. Meryn's expression changed slightly. Not softer. Not kinder. More interested. You understand why the Eastern Crown wants you, she said. Yes. You understand what your bloodline represents. Yes. You understand what happens if they claim the seal through you. Yes. And you still came here willingly? Elira looked at Rowan. Yes. The Queen Regent turned back to Rowan slowly. You've made your intentions obvious. Yes. And your decision? Yes. Her voice became colder. Then you leave the council no choice. Generals stepped forward. Advisors unfolded documents. Royal guards closed the courtyard gates. Elira Valen, Meryn declared. You are to remain under palace protection until the Eastern Crown sends negotiators. Rowan stepped forward immediately. No. Meryn didn't look surprised. You expected something different? Yes. This is diplomacy. This is surrender. This is survival. This is not protection. The tension in the courtyard became unbearable. Because everyone understood what came next. The council expected Rowan to choose. The crown. Or her. And kings did not hesitate when kingdoms depended on them. But Rowan wasn't moving. He wasn't stepping back. He wasn't surrendering. He wasn't choosing the safe decision. Elira is not a bargaining piece, he said. She is the Eastern Seal heir, Meryn replied. She is under my protection. She is under the kingdom's authority. She is under mine. You cannot separate those things. I just did. Silence crashed across the courtyard like thunder. Because no king had spoken against the council like that in 50 years. And everyone knew what it meant. Meryn stepped closer. If you refuse the council's protection order, she said quietly. You weaken your crown. If I obey it, Rowan replied. I weaken something more important. And what is that? Rowan didn't hesitate. Her freedom. Elira's heart stopped. Because she finally understood something she hadn't realized before. This wasn't politics anymore. This wasn't duty. This wasn't strategy. This was love. Footsteps echoed suddenly across the upper balcony. Everyone looked up. Lord Varen stood above the courtyard gates, surrounded by Eastern Crown soldiers, smiling. "I appreciate your hospitality," he said calmly. Royal guards raised weapons instantly. "How did you enter this palace?" Meryn demanded. "Through the same door your allies opened," he replied. The council froze. Because betrayal inside royal walls meant only one thing. Someone inside the court supported him. "I came to collect what belongs to the Eastern Crown," Varen continued. "No," Rowan said. "Yes," Varen replied. And this time. His soldiers raised crossbows toward Elira. "I will not leave without her." Rowan moved before anyone else reacted. He stepped directly in front of Elira. Shield raised. Sword drawn. King. Warrior. Protector. All at once. "No one takes her," he said quietly. Varen smiled. "You would start a war over one woman?" "Yes." The courtyard froze again. Because kings did not answer like that unless they meant it. Unless they were ready for consequences. Unless they had already decided. Then something unexpected happened. Elira stepped forward beside him. Not behind him. Beside him. "You don't need to fight this battle alone," she said. Rowan looked at her. "You shouldn't be here." "I already am." "You shouldn't choose this." "I already did." Her voice grew stronger. "I choose you." Something changed inside the courtyard. Inside the council. Inside the soldiers watching from the walls. Because love did not weaken kings. It revealed them. Meryn stepped forward slowly. Her voice calm again. "Lower your weapons." No one moved. I said lower them. Royal guards obeyed instantly. Even the Eastern soldiers hesitated. Because something had shifted. Something final. Something royal. Meryn looked directly at Varen. "The Northern Crown recognizes Elira Valen," she declared. "Not as property of the Eastern Seal. But as future Queen of the North." Silence shattered into disbelief. Even Rowan turned toward her. "What?" he said quietly. Meryn smiled slightly. "You chose her before politics. You chose her before alliances. You chose her before strategy." She looked at Elira. "That is how true kings choose queens." Varen's expression darkened instantly. "You cannot do that." "We just did." "She belongs to the Eastern Crown. She belongs nowhere except where she chooses." Elira stepped forward once more. "And I choose here." The Eastern soldiers lowered their weapons first. Then their commander followed. Then Varen turned away. Because even he understood when wars were already lost. "This isn't finished," he said quietly. "Yes," Rowan replied. "It is." That evening. As the sun set behind the northern towers. Elira stood beside Rowan on the palace balcony. No longer hidden. No longer hunted. No longer alone. "You followed me before I hired you," she said softly. "Yes." "You protected me before I trusted you." "Yes." "You loved me before I knew who you were." "Yes." She smiled. "And I hired a king thinking he was a bodyguard." Rowan laughed quietly. "Yes." She took his hand. "I would hire you again." He looked at her the same way he had the first day she chose him. "I would protect you again." And this time. He didn't say it as a bodyguard. He said it as a king. And that was the moment everything changed. She thought she had hired a common bodyguard to protect her life. But instead, she found a king who protected her heart. He stood beside her when assassins hunted her. He chose her when kingdoms demanded obedience. And when the crown itself stood in the way, he still chose her. Because sometimes the greatest love stories are not written by destiny alone. They are written by courage, by sacrifice, and by two people brave enough to choose each other, even when the world says they shouldn't. So tell me, if you were Elira, would you have trusted Rowan when you first met him? Or would you have run the moment you discovered he was a king? Share your answer in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think. And if you enjoyed this story of hidden identity, royal danger, and unexpected love, please don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss the next unforgettable romance story. Because the next story might be even more dangerous and even more magical.